Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. I will see you next month in Nebraska and Chicago. Nebraska Comedy Festival and Zanies in Chicago, Zanies in St. Charles. So excited again today. Here's the last thing. Leave me a review. I can't remember my house cleaning, but you guys know. Is it house cleaning or housework? They call it housework?
Housekeeping?
Housekeeping? Is that what they call it when the stuff you're supposed to say?
Housekeeping, I think.
Housekeeping? Okay.
I'm the worst person if you want to get your figure of speech right.
So, Jessa Reed is back to blow our minds the fourth time. And you know what was funny? The last time you were on, I hit record last time and I go, Jessa Reed is here. And you made this noise like you went, whoa. And it just made me laugh. So I think I listened to it over and over.
Really?
You went,
I'm hilarious.
So Jessa Reed, where are we starting today?
Okay, so last time I was here, we were going through an article about transurfing. At the same time I learned about transurfing, I started following a Reddit about dimension jumping.
This is OA.
So I think I joined this Reddit before the second season of the OA came out. And wasn't like a huge fan of the first season. I was really into it, but there's a ton of like, why is this in here stuff in the first season.
OA, right.
And I cannot stress enough that the first season is necessary for the second season, but the second season is the season. Go watch the OA. It's basically an instruction manual for jumping dimensions. So for a couple things for me, what these words mean for me. When I died and the aliens told me, by the way, it's so fun to come to this podcast and get to talk like this, because I don't talk like this on my own podcast. And the people who are in the secret group, I'm like, if you want to hear me get all the way weird, you have to go hear my appearances on Tinfoil Hat and Karen's podcast. Otherwise, I try to keep it pretty covert on my own podcast.
But welcome, it's a safe space.
If you're into this sort of thing, which obviously you are because you're here.
And I want to, one thing, an OA, in fact, I think I might review the first one before I start this. I started the second one, but I think I do want to review the first for the details.
Yeah.
Somebody has to get that girl. You know, the girl in the lead wrote it.
Yeah.
And so we have to find her.
Yeah, she wrote another movie, and then...
and Brad Pitt is the producer or something, so...
What?
Yeah. Because I was thinking, how do you get that... How do you sell that? Because it's odd. It had some odd stuff. But anyways, that's Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, I do think that there's just a group of people in Hollywood that know what's up, and they're making stuff for us.
Okay. And also, folks, if you go a little back, Sallow Stanley, she told her story of she popped in, she was like in another body, like, oh, this is me now.
Yeah, she was a walk-in.
Yeah. So go ahead. I interrupted.
When I died and came back and did have like skills and knowledge that I didn't have before and personality traits that I didn't have before, I went to a place called Worth on Earth Energy Center in Portland. At the time was hiring intuitive counselors, which I was suddenly good at.
Well, you didn't do that much before, but you did it kind of through a different way when you were like kind of counseling when you were younger.
Yeah, I did do like, for a minute I had like, tapped into that gift. Yeah. And so I went there for a job interview to be an intuitive counselor, but then I got to the job interview and was like, I don't really care about, I just need you to tell me what is happening to me. I died, I came back, I feel like I'm someone like important or something, like I'm supposed to figure out who I am, but like, a lot of my personality is different than it was before I died. And she told me this concept of a walk-in where, when, a person dies and doesn't want to stay here anymore, they can like make a deal with a soul that doesn't want to have to go through the entire incarnation process, but is kind of trying to jump into a point. And I never really decided whether or not that was true. I do think a lot about how if I really break down my thoughts, and it feels like there's several people in there. depending on the day and the time, I feel like you get a different, you would get a different reaction from me because I do feel like there are several different versions of me. So I think a lot about something called subpersonalities I've looked into, where they're not like split personalities, but what if that inner dialogue in our head is because there's multiple versions of us in there, and that, like, when you're arguing with yourself, it's because they're arguing over the control panel.
The lady that I like, Teal Swan, she talks a lot about fractured personalities. And I don't know if that's the same thing. I always thought that was when you fracture, like you have Karen the warrior, you have Karen the vulnerable, you have Karen the caregiver. And I think where we get mixed up is sort of, it's almost like they're on a disc, and which disc do we play now? Yeah. And if you put the wrong one in, that's where we have problems.
Yeah, the subpersonality thing, I wonder if it's the same thing, talks about, they all have the same goal, which is to help you survive and help you thrive in situations, to protect you. But there are all these kind of like split off pieces of you, and they are not aware of the other versions of you. And so
you have to be the center directing who goes next.
Yeah. Kind of. And so, yeah, like your higher self would do that, I guess. I don't know. It's one of these things that like I ponder a lot, but you can really you have to be like in the experience to be like, yeah, there are places where vulnerable Jessa would serve best, but for some reason I end up with tough exterior Jessa in this situation.
That's so funny. I was just going to say that because there's a guy I like, and I always notice when I talk to him, because of not being someone that relationships were soft and fuzzy, I thought, you're reacting to him like warrior Karen, not like warm, loving
exactly.
Karen.
Yeah.
And he knows that. That's why he's like, I don't even know what's going on here. And I had a question. I'm going to jump way off topic just for a second. I had texted you something, and I can't remember what it was. And I think it was, you had talked about that we all may ascend this time. We're taking our bodies with us. Yeah. So a lot of people might suddenly disappear from the earth, right?
I have, this is one of the things that came up, did you ever watch The Leftovers?
Yes, some of it.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I thought. I thought, what if we're actually talking about the same thing as the people that believe in the rapture talk about?
Yeah. I do think the rapture, there is something in the collective where there's a split, right? Where we're going to have a split and people are going to leave. I certainly don't, by a fucking long shot, believe that the bigots of the world are going to get sucked off the planet while the rest of us burn. But The Leftovers, fucking phenomenal finale, and I hate to spoil it because so many people haven't seen that show, I won't.
And it's only 2 seasons, right?
It's 5, I think. 4?
Okay, I got to start again on that.
It might be 3.
That one had
such a good show.
It is, but it had sometimes when that vibration on that one's very low. Like usually they have a little bit of, like Walking Dead had a couple of high points. It was so low, I was like, I got to be in the right place.
The premise of the show is just like, what if a third of the planet left, or 2/3 of the planet left? It's split 1/3 and 2/3, and I can't remember which one you're watching, and just so everyone's mourning, everyone in the world is mourning at the same time. Like, what would that do to the collective consciousness? And a lot of people gave up on the show because they wanted an answer for what happened to the rest of the people. And it's like, that's not what the show's about. It's not about solving that mystery. It's about what would happen if everyone was mourning at the same time. And it's brilliant, but it was heavy. I watched it when it was coming out, and I can't imagine trying to binge it because it's dark and it's heavy, but it's shot bright, which helps for me. But
same with Westworld.
I was just talking to someone about the contrast of like something being physically dark shot and like also dark as in heavy. But ultimately, it's about a splitting of dimensions. So when I died, I talked to the aliens. Some things that the aliens said was that there would eventually be a split, and that I had a dream. One of the like alien school dreams I had was all of us up in the clouds, and our
Everybody or some of us?
Some of us, me, the aliens, and other people. It was a small group at first, and then the world up in the clouds looked almost cartoonish compared to the world down below, which was very dark and like stormy and hard and became desolate. And we would just reach down and pull people up as they were ready. And that was like a description of how the splitting of the dimensions would happen. And all of this stuff was so much metaphor and so many things that I didn't understand, because I don't think you can understand them until they start to happen. So when you try to describe to someone that there'll come a point where we split dimensions, this is how you end up with things like the rapture, where it's like God's going to suck us off the planet. It's like, because you can't understand it because it hasn't happened. But I can see it now. I can see that I am living in a completely different reality than other people are living. They're here. They're physically here. I don't even know if I could interact with them because they're speaking a different language, even though it's English. They are on a completely different wavelength. So things that have come into focus this year. It's because one of the things that the aliens said was that gender would cease to exist. And in 2000, I don't know what that means. I was like, people are going to stop having dicks, because I still thought gender was sex.
Yeah.
And
now you got this next generation
this generation was just like, yeah, it doesn't exist. They started calling it a construct, and the aliens called it parameters, but it was like, it's just a made up thing for the game. Male and female doesn't exist. Good and bad doesn't exist. Right and wrong, light and dark. None of these things made sense until now I see the constructs dissolving, and I'm like, oh, it is just made up. And then you just have a generation of people waking up to the fact that it's made up, gender roles, all this. So it's similar with timelines and dimensions, and for me, dimensions has a little bit of a different meaning because the way that the aliens described it was like dimensions, as in the dimensions of the room is this. So it's like you have 3D. There's just three ways to experience that, like three things,
we're in 3D
aspects, right? And then 4D would be when the astral plane became a completely accessible to everyone part of the game.
Okay, so let's review that for 1 second. When you mean that's when our collective consciousness and everything is really integrated?
So in 2012 is when that shift happened, according to the dreams I've had. And that is, you can tell when someone's lying.
Okay. Oh, that's when you talk. Okay.
Or so when you can hear it feels like subtext. So you can hear people's thoughts. You just we're not taught to sharpen that skill. But when you're talking to someone and they're telling you this is why I'm mad, and you can hear why they're actually mad, that's what I call the ether, what other people call the astral plane.
That's a lot of, I know a lot of you are nodding because I know a lot of people from my podcast that actually get readings too. They are all digesting this right now. And I think they are like, yeah, all of a sudden this, and I can't talk to people around me. And I think that's what they're literally digesting, that this skill came in that wasn't there before.
Yeah. So this resulted in a ton of people isolating. This resulted in a lot of social anxiety because it's overwhelming to be around a lot of people. For me, it felt like a million radios on at once. But it is, every social interaction is so intimate now because you are tapped into people without knowing that you're tapped into people. We aren't taught to listen to this, but we're listening to it. And it is, it's all this sharing and syncing up to people that you don't know that you're doing. So it's overwhelming, and it's just easier to be alone. It's easier to be with your small circle of people.
It's easier to talk on the internet than in person.
Exactly.
And you came over, or I had been talking to you before you came over to my place again, and it was like all of a sudden I threw out everything. I threw out half my stuff. And you had said, I think we're communicating with our stuff all the time.
It is, yeah. It is.
Which is, yeah, as Marie condo? Why not fill yourself with either nothing or things that give you joy? Why would you want that pile of garbage over there that you don't want in your house?
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. You're processing at all times all of the data. And so just like overwhelming yourself with a ton of data, and everything has, like my house is sterile and empty all the time.
Yeah.
Just because it's too much.
But it's not, your house is not cold though.
Yeah.
Like you can have a house that's decorated perfect, and it's like, not to pick on her, but Melania Trump put up those red Christmas trees, and everybody's like, what? And they weren't ugly, but they were cold.
Yeah.
Like they did not have any Christmas spirit. So yeah,
that's a good point.
So you're processing.
So 5D.
Yeah. Oh, 5D. Okay, so 4D was, okay, we got what 4D is. That's where we're all sort of getting that intuition click. We're communicating. We can hear it now.
So you got everything in the physical realm, plus now you have access to this this 4D thing. So this, when I say dimension, is not like another place that you're going. I should find a better word for it, but it's just a word I've used forever. And so 5D would be, so it's just expanding
I have a good analogy.
The layers.
Somebody explained it to me like it's like the fan in the room that's spinning so fast that you can see through it, but you know the fan is there. Like it's there. Like if there was a fan separating here to there, it's spinning. Does that not work?
So what? Like I'm just like so when I say dimension jumping, we're really talking about jumping timelines, right?
Okay.
But when I say dimensions in it's like the difference between a triangle and a square. You have 3 aspects to the triangle, and I probably should have paid attention in geometry because this would be a lot easier. But then you have 4 aspects in a square.
Okay.
And now we're bringing on a 5th, which would make a whatever the fuck that's
Pentagram,
called.
or something like that.
Octagon?
Octagon would be 8, I think.
Oh, yeah. See, this is bad. This is not where
Would it be quad? No, quad is 4.
Yeah, this is a mess.
We get it.
We'll figure it out. So the 5th is love.
Pentagram. No, did I just say that?
It is a pentagram. It is a pentagram.
So 5th is love.
Pentagon, whatever the pentagon is. Penta something. We'll edit this out.
So we're going into 5.
5 is love, but it's not love as we have ever experienced love. It is, so right now what a lot of people are working through is their issues with love and attachment and childhood trauma, because that's where all the love and attachment issues come from. I did a bunch of acid recently and tried communicating with the aliens again, which is just basically, I think anyone can do it. You just sit down and start writing, and just don't think about what you're writing. Just
automatic
let it write. Just automatic write. So.
And you know what, too? I want to throw one thing in, too. You have a couple of great podcasts, so people know, on Mormon and the Meth Head, that are about detached activation, this kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, you want to tell them which episodes they want to pick up this right here?
Love Me, but not like that. It's my podcast partner and I kind of trying to work through our own relationship and realizing that we have
stuff that everybody can
attachment stuff to figure out. I just can't remember what we named any of them, but it's a lot of what we have gotten into probably in the last 2 months has been snow globes is one of them, and whatever was right before snow globes.
And that's Mormon in the Meth Head.
Mormon in the Meth Head.
And you know what? That's a perfect place to take a break and come right back. Fierce, Funny, and Female has won over 10 book awards, and probably while I'm telling you this, it's winning 10 more. As one of the first women to work as a laborer in the Texas oil field, Marty McGibbon set off explosives and staked oil wells before realizing her childhood dream of becoming a successful stand-up comic. Marty introduces readers to a wide range of characters in her life, from sleazy authority figures and crazy corn belt cult leaders to Texas oil billionaires two wild-eyed redneck co-workers who robbed banks on their lunch hour. This is the second in Marty's series, and it is one of the most exciting stories. It's the story of a young woman's triumph over adversity and trauma, told with grace, wit, and laugh-out-loud humor. Look for Fierce, Funny, and Female on Amazon.com, author Marty McGibbon. Okay, so it's love, but not love like we know it.
So when I died and went to the blue ball of light, I was in the blue ball and it was home and I was a part of it and everything was a part of it, but I was still myself. But I was an individual without having any separation. And the illusion of separation is a big part of this world. That if you truly understood that you are me, and that the guy who cut me off in traffic is me, and that the person who broke my heart is me. Like, we have the illusion of separation that...
because of the physical body, right?
Because of the physical body, because of the fear-based reality, and, that we can only tap into that oneness every once in a while, and by every once in a while, I mean when we're on MDMA. So, a big part of enlightenment or raising your vibration or like getting to their like compassion and everything else is getting to a place where you understand that everything is you. And if I could describe the bliss of being in the blue ball of light, it would be that I was one with everything again in that way. Without the separation, it felt like, because there's a homesickness that comes from believing yourself to be separate from your enemies and everyone else in the world. It's very isolating, and it's not what we are. We are one thing.
There's a TED talk of there's a woman that had a stroke, and she was literally I think she was I don't know if she was she was a brain surgeon or a brain, whatever, smart as you can go. She studied the brain and she had a stroke, and she talks about it from inside. Here's the person that's supposed to know, talks about it from inside the stroke. And the apex of the speech is how she became one. And she was like, I didn't know how I was going to fit back into that body. And I was so big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to hear it from like a medical person that was like, what is going on? So she's medically assessing it. But anyways, if anybody wants to look, that's a good, really good YouTube. Put in TED Talk, woman has stroke, brain surgeon has stroke.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I want to listen to that. I love brain/mind stuff. So the automatic writing I did with the aliens in February, which I haven't done in a very long time. I have only recently started, I guess I've lived my life kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, ever since I left alien school. But over the course of the last year, it has just felt
important,
more and more okay, I think this is real. And so, I did some psychedelics, and then I just sat for 5 hours and just wrote. I just asked questions and then wrote out the answers. And I thought, I will never talk about this on my podcast, but I thought it might be fun.
Perfect for here.
To talk about here. And so...
you know what? I just want to throw in a weird thing about, you kind of started to get back into this. I feel like right now is the time to make the changes. And I don't mean not prepare so the next life is better, but I really feel like now is the time. We are in a time where do what you're supposed to do, man. Even if you're just a guy that's working in a machine shop and you're supposed to be, an artist, we're in the crossover now. Do it now. You're supposed to reach your purpose now or move to a different space now more so than ever, I think.
So, well then, yeah. So the timeline thing. So okay, let's say you have 4D integrated. So you've learned how to master the senses that you need to operate in the astral plane or the ether. And so now all of the timelines that are available to you are 4D timelines, right? Until you are able to, this is a working theory, by the way, because this is all like coming into focus.
And I'll break this down in a second too. I'll try to simplify it after you're done.
And then once you have 5D on board, which would mean you'd have to work through all of your programming that is fucked up about love and attachment and everything else, then you could get to 5D timelines. And the description that they gave me of 5D that I still don't understand because I'm obviously not there yet is that we would experience love and connection with other people in the way that you would connect with them to where you are one, and there would be no feeling of separation. So that feels a million miles away from me. I definitely am working through love and attachment stuff at the speed of light, and I still don't see me being able to meld with another person. You would have to be so far outside of ego and fear and stuff. Anyway, but stuff's going very fast, so.
And there's a way that I feel like, here's my big thing this year. And it's not that psychology didn't know this, that we're not we're mirroring who's around us.
Yeah.
But lately I've been like, okay, this one's very competitive and I've got competitive people around me. So then I have to go, all right, then I'm either the competitor myself, or you know what I mean? Like there's a different awareness. Like in a lot of people that aren't happy will say this is wrong, but I do believe everybody that's around you right now is around you for a reason.
Absolutely.
Okay? So if you're around a lot of people that aren't succeeding, you're very comfortable there. That's not where you want to be. It's like any game. It's like any game. You want to up your one, you got to play with a better player.
Yeah.
So that's what I think as close as I can figure. It still feels separate, but it feels like that when they're talking, we're all one. That's as much as I get. That these people are around for a reason. They've all been drawn to me. In fact, it could even be, say there's 5 people in this room that are all reflecting what I'm sending out. In a weird dimensional way, what if there's actually 10 people in the room, but I can't see them because they're not part of my mirror?
2 things on that. Number 1, I had a dream where we were all, like we all had projectors coming out of our foreheads, and then everyone was wearing like a mirror suit. And that while we were interacting with each other, we were playing a movie onto their mirror, and they were playing a movie onto our mirror. And they are just like, they're on their own game. And we are playing individual games in each other's reflections. But how much time do we spend like arguing with loved ones about what actually happened? And what if what actually happened in that scenario is never going to line up because I'm playing a game in which you are abandoning me, and you are playing a game in which you can't get my attention. And we are never going to line up in these like cyclical arguments because we are playing 2 different games. I just need to work out, like, your reflection is here so that I can work out my own salvation. And whether or not there is no real, like there is no quote unquote real in that situation, because you are literally just a mirror. And I'm surrounded by people that keep letting me down. Like that's a game I'm playing. For whatever reason, I'm trying to beat this level, but to like attach to that person and what they did. When you go back years later and talk to people who like let you down or whatever, and then you each tell each other your story once the emotions aren't high, and you're like, oh, that wasn't what I thought happened at all.
Right.
It's because both things happened because you were there playing different roles in each other's lives. That's the first thing. And then the other thing that you said about that.
People that we can't see.
Mirrors, people that we can't see. Okay. I make this joke all the time that there's only 1,000 people on the planet because I swear to God, there are people, and like I can see it now because of like Facebook and stuff, but there are people that I knew from the Jesus time in my life in Portland who are like married to people that I know from the recovery time in Delaware. I run into people when I'm in fucking Texas that I've known from Chicago. Like, and part of that's comedy,
theory.
but it's so goddamn small that I'm like, the rest of these people are Sims or something. They are extras in the movie. Also, the extras feel like the same face, like people who are just on the peripheral that I'll never interact with, I swear to God, have the same faces as people who were on the peripheral when I was in my Jesus phase in a different state, as the people who were in the peripheral when I worked at a restaurant in Pennsylvania. And
I say that all the time when I go to a comedy show. I feel, in fact, I have the funniest story.
People.
This is talk about connecting on the right level. I went and did a gig in Colorado, and I got an email from a girl that lived there, and she's like, "Hey, I see it was kind of a private gig, but she was there," and she was like, her name was Tig, and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to be there," and I was like, "Come up after the show, let's say hello." So I walk in, and my friend April is trying to teach me how to dress, and so I take pictures I like this outfit. So this girl is wearing this dress and boots, and I take a picture and I go, "April, this is exactly what I want to wear." And she's like, "Karen, it's just a dress and boots. What's the big deal?" Who do you think is the girl that sent me the email? She comes back out later and I'm like, "Look, I have a picture of you." She stood out because we've made that mental connection.
Yeah.
But I cannot tell you how many times I'll be talking to somebody on the road that is of the, like you say, the outside, and I go, "I wonder if do I know you? Did I see you in?" Because it's almost like the same face.
Yeah. It's like I get it a lot now. Like once Meth Piss came out, and people would connect who I was to that. But like, I get a lot of people are like, I was at a party in Florida, like places I've never even been, and it's like, and I was talking to someone who knows you.
Right.
So this was like, I would constantly say that there's only 1,000 people on the planet. And then as the timeline thing has started to come into focus, I'm like, okay. So the premise that I have gathered from reality transurfing is that there are an infinite number of variations and timelines. And they overlap each other, they bump into each other, they run over each other. It's just a million branches going a million different ways. And that reality transurfing can teach you how to surf onto more favorable timelines.
Which, by the way, we did the 2 podcasts on it. Then just put Transurfing Reality in YouTube. There's 400 tapes.
There's so much.
He read the book. You found somebody else that read the book. There's so much on it. And it's
coincidentally, he's Russian, and the father in the OA is Russian.
From Russia, yeah.
Something that someone else pointed out to me. Dimension jumping is similar in that there's something called the 2-cup method. You take 2 glasses, you put a label of the the timeline you're currently on, the thing like unemployed, and on the other one you would put
great job,
employed, making whatever, and then the one you're currently on has the water on it. You sit there and think about, feel it, and then you pour the water into the one you want to be in. You sit and think about it, feel it, drink the water, put the glasses away, and just know that you're on this new timeline. Similar to like manifesting reality, except for really kind of just
using physical things,
yeah,
including water, which is very susceptible to intention.
Exactly. And so I tried that. I put 4 very big things on it, and they all changed within 24 hours.
Wow.
And I think a lot about the connection between dumping trauma and processing like pain and hurt and attachment and stuff. And if this is all it is, there's a million different timelines, you get to pick the one that you're on. All this stuff that we've had pumped into our heads our entire lives about worthiness and earning things, and like God, you have to please God, all this shit, and all this stuff, all this self-esteem stuff, all this worth, all this envy. Like envy in itself, we've talked about before, is so disempowering because it's like, it's these value judgments where it's like, well, that's a timeline that other people get on. Is it really just, step to a different timeline and you're just on it. And that's why you can't have attachment or or importance attached to things or, a need for the outcome, because you're putting way more pressure on it when it's literally just step off onto the other one, because it doesn't matter. There is no such thing as like being worthy of, it doesn't matter. You can't earn it. It just is. It's a million things. Point the car in the direction of the lane you want to be in and just be in it. Mm-hmm. And like, it's the simplest thing. And we have to get rid of all this programming that makes it complicated.
And private programming. And I think sometimes people may step on certain lifelines or places easier just because, you know, look, if we were comedians in our past lives, we bring that in this one so we can step right on that lifeline without any trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody else that hasn't done it before is going to have a little bit of a rockier start. So, yeah. And then if we can undo, that's the whole thing, is undoing what we've been led to
so I
believe.
think these two things go hand in hand, that you have to trade out, a bunch of 3D shit to get to this higher, the stuff I learned in my dreams. I'm going to start doing a video series soon where I try to figure out if I am enlightened or schizophrenic. But some of the things I got taught to do in my dreams, I feel like I know how to do them. I feel like I know how to move things with my eyes, and I feel like I know how to float. I levitate so much in my dreams that I feel what it feels like in my feet. I feel what part of me makes it happen. And when I levitate in my dreams, it's not like this simple thing. It's the skill that I'm like sharpening in my dreams. I'm learning how to do it. I get up off of the ground. I always do it to show off in my dreams because I have the skill before most people do. And I end up like, I go like 2 feet in the air and then I fall down on the ground, or I hit my head on the ceiling, or I'm like leaning sideways, or I freak out and fall back down.
Just before you said that, my ears started to ring like they do when I think I'm getting information.
Really? Do you know
like
that
it goes
ears...
like this, and then this one stays the same, and then it moves over. And I know either there's a spirit, or when I hear that ring, I'm like, you're getting a download.
Oh, that's interesting, because ear ringing in the OA is how they know that they've jumped.
Oh, interesting.
So, so many things. So I think that those are like in my gut 8D things. Like once we have like
yogis,
upgraded.
there is a guy I know that went to see a yogi, and the yogi literally levitated up over a railing and came down. So it's not undone. It's just not. I think yogis are on this. Yogis know a lot more about this.
Yeah, but they get to live in the higher dimensional. So I think that there are 8D people walking around us, but I exist on 4D timelines, and all of this is a working theory, by the way. But the way that is,
that's my drunken neighbor. If you're hearing another voice,
come in focus. That's someone from 3D. I exist on 4D timelines, but the person at the grocery store who is standing next to me playing an extra on my timeline, I'll never interact with, right? Because they're just on a different timeline. And so that's where the sensation that all these other people are extras. I used to say like cut from a different energetic cloth. They are just in like, they're an extra in my movie, I'm an extra in their movie because they are on whatever. So the big dimensional split, I think did come up in the reading with the aliens. A couple of things is that we are, one of the things that I was told originally at the same time that I was told that gender would cease to exist is that disease would cease to exist, that we would stop dying and we would stop aging. And so I kind of banked on this, and I never used sunblock. And now I'm 42 and I'm like, okay, wait, but I think I'm aging.
This is my excuse about never getting a colonoscopy. Yeah, you don't use sunblock, I'm not getting a colonoscopy.
I'm going to ascend. Thank you very much. Also, I hate all the words like ascend and stuff now because there's so many fake awakes talking about this stuff that I don't want to associate.
You know what is funny too about that is, did you ever notice something's not a problem until someone brings it up?
Yeah.
Like you might have a mole all your life and it's no trouble until someone goes, that looks cancerous. Now cancer is in your mind and now you're like, oh my God, is it getting bigger? It looks like it's getting bigger. Yeah. Don't even bring it to me.
I used to say diagnosis was 99% of disease.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to watch the process of somebody once they get diagnosed with something.
And that's funny that you said that because I do kind of hate that like someone being woke now is a joke. It's in, you know what I mean? It's in jokes.
Yeah.
And
It's language. There's a ton of language that like I used for years and I don't know what this is. Do I hate my own reflection? But I cannot stand most of the New Age movement.
Well,
I don't want to be associated with it. It's a big part of the reason that I don't talk about this stuff on my own podcast. It feels inauthentic to me. It feels like religion to me. I don't like gurus. I don't like snake oil. I don't like we had a conversation about charging for readings, and I'm like, that's a gift. Like that's a gift that I use, you know? Like I can oracle things myself, not if I'm emotionally attached to it. I need someone else. It's absolutely like a service that's being provided. But then I don't like
it's a middle ground that's hard to,
I don't like when it feels like a business, because I feel like some people, when it comes to charging people for enlightenment, which is like not how enlightenment works. Mm-hmm. And then also I feel like I see people holding back pieces of truth that would keep people dependent on you forever, like a guru. I don't know what it is. I can never put my finger on it.
I know what you're talking about. It's like anything. It's been watered down, so you got to make sure you're with the real deal and you're with the one that works for you. Yeah. And you can't be afraid to outgrow it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's a good point, yeah.
Because I don't know, it was a weird example, but somebody was comparing me. I have another friend, and she said, no, you kind of give advice, and then you're like, go ahead. And the other person collects people. They need them. They need them to, like, I'm very much like, wow, I love emails that are like, I got over it, I'm done. But she needs them under that spell, sort of. And you know what's another funny thing is she needs them to see that she has a gift. And I'm always like, listen, if we all can do it, I don't know that it's a gift. I just spent my time on it. It's just like going to a great therapist that went to college. You're paying for his college. I spent a lot of time on tarot, so you're going to...
polishing that. Yeah, that's a good...
Study time. But I feel like I just did, I believe you were up right after I did the Denver airport. And what they talked about is how all the crazy things with Denver airport. And then they started to write articles how the airport is leaning in on the conspiracies and they're making fun of them.
Yeah.
So they're putting up billboards with aliens on them, like, have you seen us, kind of thing. And it was literally written, and I don't know if it was Project Blue Book or Paperclip, where when they were talking about Area 51, they told everybody, lean in and make it funny. Make it funny so that then now we're really making anybody feel stupid that believes in it. And that's kind of what I feel like this waking up, people kind of were like, let's just make it funny. Let's just make her another idiot.
Yeah, well, it's like the woo-woo movement. There are like obvious trolls to me where it's like, this whole like essential oil, make fun of people who are into this. Like I was just like never into this stuff. I'm also just not into, this isn't something you evangelize. So if you've tuned into the wiring under the board, people don't tune into it till they're supposed to tune into it. We don't need to be balls to the wall out in public. We're not the
fucking
peacocks and shit. Just shut up. Just
yeah. Or for a worst example, at the door, can I come in and tell you about Jesus? Can I tell you?
Yeah, it's not something that can be evangelized, and I think that is a lot of what I don't know. I can never put my finger on what it is because I'm like, part of it, I don't like the fake positivity stuff, right?
Right. And you know what? That's a big thing that I talk about, having the dark side. And a lot of people make a comment about how positive this podcast is. And I think it's because we're aware of our dark side. I know a lot of people have done ayahuasca, and almost 90% really good results. And then there's 2 people I know that had very negative, and both of those people are the people that they're so sweet, you wonder if they've ever had a bad thought. And I don't mean saccharine like passive aggressive. I mean, like one of the guys that told me he was freaked out for months. He is so, it's his being is so gentle that somewhere I don't think he's seen his dark side. So the minute he did that ayahuasca, it's back.
Oh my God.
It's back.
Yeah.
And I think people that are more integrated and can go, wow, sometimes I you know what I mean? I get a thrill out of that thing that I shouldn't, or something like that. But they don't judge it. They just go, yeah, that's my thing. Sometimes I don't know, whatever it is, what we would consider bad.
Yeah.
And if they're just like, yeah, it's just me. It's a very different. We're way off on.
Yeah. No, that is God. Ayahuasca keeps coming up, so I'm waiting for the.
For it to fall in your lap.
Yeah, I know it's coming.
Oh, and we got one more break. And then we'll be right back. Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Sonova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out. All right, so we're back. And I had turned you off on, we were talking about the dark side and woo-woo and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know why I always want to shit on the New Age movement.
Well, you know what it is? It's there's a particular channeler that everybody loves that I can't get on her timeline. And maybe she's telling them what they need to hear now. And right now I'm like, I don't trust this at all. And The Secret was like that. And people went crazy for it. And I was like, I
liked The Secret in that it mainstreamed, here's me contradicting myself in 1 minute, but I liked that suddenly the mainstream was introduced to the idea that what if we are creating this reality? Because that was like unheard of before.
Right, but I think...
I hated the entire methodology of it.
Right.
Was like huge missing pieces, which once again, you're creating a dependency on you. You're creating a dependency, buy more of my books. Fuck that. Tell them the truth from the beginning.
Plus, I think it discouraged people.
Yeah, and it just all made us seem nuts. And I guess that's probably what it is that a ton of words that I have like used for the last 18 years are now, I can't use them anymore because they are associated with...
Yeah, it's like when a joke in your act becomes hack, even though you were the first one to tell it.
I guess that's what it is. My spirituality has become hack, and it's very frustrating.
Well, the front part of it is what I say, because the back part nobody can touch. You know what I mean? The front part.
I just am good at coming up with new words, so I'll do that. So ascension, I guess, is the word I used to use, but I think basically it's this upgrade to this expanded ability to play the game, know that you're playing the game, have more weapons in your arsenal, just a higher level of experience. And so within each of those levels, which would be like 3D, 4D, 5D, whatever, there are an infinite number of timelines. And I think you can just pick the timelines. And what I have learned in my few weeks since I did my first jump was that something else I've really gotten into recently is neural pathways. And I think I may have talked about this on your podcast before, but my husband had gotten in a car accident and bumped his head. And so physically it changed his neural pathways. It changes your whole personality. Well, like when you have a habit like smoking cigarettes, you have a neural pathway carved that when you take a shit, you smoke a cigarette. When you stand outside, you smoke a cigarette. When you finish a meal, you smoke a cigarette. And that is like a neural pathway that's carved. And that when you want to get off of a timeline where you are negative or afraid or attached or whatever, that's a neural pathway that's been carved. And there is a connection between jumping to the timeline and also addressing those neural pathways. And that things like songs from the other timeline, people from the other timeline, like I'm learning about anchors and stuff. And I'm learning this just through trial and error. So it's all very...
New.
soft and new for me, but like I put 4 very big things on. The next day, the outcome of all of these things was different, and then I came back in contact with a carved pathway of something I was attached to, and then watched myself end up back on that timeline. And I thought about, in reality transurfing, it talks about like you can ride the wave of luck, but you can also ride whatever the wave of a less favorable timeline. So I bump back into an old timeline, and then I choose to attach to those feelings, those thoughts, and then I'm back on the other timeline.
And there is a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know that goes through the chemistry of that. And it shows how the more you have that same thought over and over, the thicker this synapse or this connection gets until it's very hard to break.
Interesting.
And then, and it's almost like, too, there's my friend Carol Metcalf, who is a psychologist, but whatever, she's way up there. She talked about how when we were moving my parents to their independent living, that not to freak out because they're going to start making new neural pathways. But on that What the Bleep Do We Know, it's literally a photographer played by Marlee Matlin who goes to it's a documentary while there's a story going on. She goes to a wedding and it taps off all her ex-boyfriend stuff. So it's fascinating.
Oh, interesting.
It's really way...
That I never watched that. I remember it being in my peripheral, but something about it keeps popping up on my phone.
It's really good, and I think
time.
people can understand it now, whereas it was very hard to understand and follow before. But the other thing about that is when people just want to change a habit, I don't think they understand. It's like a lot of people have been calling me lately, how do I get this ghost out of my house? There's a lot going on. So I put up a bonus episode of the 10 things to do. You got to do them every day. This is not a one-time thing. They don't, that's the movies where someone comes in and goes bang, bang, and it's gone in a bottle forever. It's like, this is the work that we have to do to get there.
Yeah. It is. So that is what I am finding with the timeline thing is I definitely felt a difference. Strange values changed of mine where suddenly I was like, I think I'll send my kids to school. Like
instead of homeschool.
Yeah. And, but then there is a necessity to making sure when you wake up in the morning, you are synced up to the timeline that you want to be on. And I was driving to a gig with someone who was raised a certain kind of Buddhist, and he said that that was a big part of it, was getting in the morning praying. The praying was about like lining up to the they didn't call it a timeline, but a same basic principle. And so making sure that at the beginning of this jump, I am not revisiting things from the most recent timeline that I don't want to be on. And that I am like, what would financially independent Jessa be doing today? What would happily single Jessa be doing today? What would, whatever your thing is.
I get that because, I used to wake up very sad. I used to have a hard time waking up, and I clicked that into waking up and literally looking at my dog. Like, I'm so glad to have this dog. And I have to do, even now, sometimes I have to do that. I wake up like, and then I have to go get that right into gratitude. Yep. And I think that, so when they jump a timeline, say I do a thing that says, I want to book a whole bunch more clubs this year. And so that for the first day I'm on that timeline and I've stepped out of I'm a failure and now I'm working in these clubs. I got to make sure the next morning I get up thinking I'm still going to work all these clubs. Not, I'm a failure. I just booked a couple of clubs.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was, now whether or not this is actual timelines or just a mental exercise to get better at things, like I guess it could be either. Who cares though, right? If it works.
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that they used water.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they talk about, I watched a couple of YouTube videos on it. They talked about that.
And just so people know, and you'll see it in What the Bleep Do We Know, which I think is on YouTube now, there was a study done on water where they taped a particular word to the water and then they checked the molecules later, and like the molecules in the water that had the word hate on it were like all over the place, just crazy, not good. And then like the one that said love, the molecules were all beautifully lined up, or it's a very I can't find. You'll see it in what the bleep do we know? It's literally the water reacted to the vibration of the word. So I find it interesting that she used water in this cup jumping thing.
Yeah, and it's like we're made up of water, and what if that's the magic? What if it was just fucking water the whole time?
Yeah.
I think that's it on the dimension jumping things so far of what I've got. Some of the split thing that the aliens talked about is that all of these huge upgrades, like we're all getting these huge upgrades, huge downloads, everything's changing so fast, but that we have like code that makes everything seamless. And so you really have to like force yourself to go back and be like look at a picture of a year ago, or like go listen to a song that you were listening to a lot a year ago, and really like let yourself really like how much has changed, like how fundamentally the world is different a year ago, and to really see how hard and fast we are upgrading and changing to a different game.
Yeah.
And that the split will be similar in that people who do not want to go to these higher level timelines, there will just kind of be a natural separation that happens between us and them until we all just kind of cease to perceive each other, and that it won't...
I think it
weird. Won't feel like a rapture.
No, the other people might feel like ghosts, so
they'll just be like a relative. You know, like you're super close with your cousin when you're a kid, and then you become adults, and like they're on your Facebook somewhere, but you don't ever interact with them because they're just like in a different world.
You know, that's interesting that you keep mentioning music, because lately I've been downloading a lot of disco. And the more I think about it, those were the songs I listened to when I had so much hope. And I think a big part of our career is not just doing and learning, but you have to have that. You know, when you were younger and you're like, I could do anything. I got my whole life ahead of me. I think you always have to feel like that, even if you're 50 or 60 or whatever, or 70. And I feel like, oh my God, all of a sudden I've got on all these. And it was that I hated school. I hated college. And it was that I'm almost done. I'm almost out kind of feeling to those songs.
Yeah.
And I thought, I seem to be playing those all the time now. Like we're right on the edge of something.
There is one of the alien things I wrote down back then was that music was a way to burn your experiences onto... It was like burning your experiences onto a CD, and then you could go back and download that experience by listening to that song 20 years later.
You know, that may be why I love the song exactly how I heard. This is why I don't go to concerts, because I don't want to hear it live. I want to hear it like I heard it on that record. That's how I played it a million times, and I want it to sound like that.
Yep.
That's funny.
Exactly. I'm actually like repeating a life experience right now that I had earlier, 20 years ago. And the song that I listened to when I got through it then popped up in my head. And so then I went back and have been listening to that song, and it's very empowering. And it's like, what a cool tool to have in the arsenal to know. But then also to know if you were just, stressing over your job situation while listening to this song on repeat in your car in the last timeline and you have jumped, do not play that song.
Right. There's another thing too. I have a friend that is always talking about, like when I had trouble with Kaiser, her name is Denise Nicky, and she, I'm going to have her on the podcast. In fact, I wanted to talk about biogeometry, which is another thing that's blowing my mind. But I was with Kaiser, had sent me a big bill, and I didn't know how to get out of it, and I was fighting it, and then I was going after them on Twitter, and I was like, this is just not going to work out. And she was like, just leave yourself open to an option that you haven't seen yet, because that's what we do when we have a problem.
Exactly.
We go, it's going to go like this, and I was like, no, it's not going to, it's going to, and then sure enough, the option was completely, people do this to me all the time. I just read for a girl, and I said, they're producing a movie, and she said, he promised me a part. And I was like, it's not going to be that part. It's going to be another part. It's going to be a different part.
Yeah.
And she kind of got antsy, and I'm thinking, you're going to get a better part. But I didn't quite say it because she was fighting me so much on it. So I was like, okay, we'll leave it here. So she called me the next day and was like, immediately. So they signed and they gave me that part. And I was like, well, good. And I'm thinking, I'll wait 4 months till you call me back and tell me you got a better part.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, be open to that. Everything's not set in stone. And we do that as human beings all the time.
Well, and the thing that you said about like having so much hope when you're young is that we tend to take our failures and allow them and our mistakes and stack them up as proof that nothing is ever going to work out, rather than seeing them as when you're 20 and you feel like you have your whole life in front of you, all your failures and mistakes just feel like it doesn't matter because I still have all this time in front of me. And then the illusion of time, and you get older and the societal constructs, and then you're like, oh, this is all proof that nothing is ever going to work out.
Yeah.
Where that's just a story like everything else that you're telling yourself.
Yeah, and it's real interesting. And this is something you do good. Wow, we're going to be right on the hour, I think. You do this very well, but I think that this is why I feel like I got to see that whole season of OA, but this is why I am obsessed with Westworld. I think that same tape is played over and over and over, and people can't break out. They can't go, wait a minute, I'm in control of this. I always tell people, if you're watching Westworld, I'm the mean prostitute. She's the one that's the first one that kind of breaks out and goes, what are we all doing here? That's me, I feel like. And that's what we're doing here. We're going, I don't have to, like, people sitting in marriages and jobs that they don't understand. You do a great job of, like we were just talking about, like with your first marriage, where you like got up and you're like, wait, I'm done. Whole thing, new haircut, new job, moving to a new place. Boom, boom, boom. Set it up. Like, I know so many people that are going through changes now that all they're seeing is the bad. And I'm like, dude, you got to move into that.
I am the master of the pivot.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's great. Anything else, or are we? That seems like a lot to think about, didn't it?
Yeah, I have another podcast coming out soon, but it's not out yet. So just follow me on social media.
You let me know when that is, and we'll, at the very least, put in an ad for it. But you can come on and talk about it or whatever you want. I just love whenever you come.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a blast.
We all jump to Lifeline. A timeline.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Go back and listen to Mormon and Meth Head. Where can they follow you, Jessa?
At Jessa Reed Comedy on Twitter and Instagram, and Jessa Reed on Facebook.
And you'll see on her Twitter, on her Instagram, pictures of me with no makeup and my hair pulled back, so don't be afraid.
I didn't look good in those, so I threw them away.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right, everybody, if you can leave me a review, thank you so much. I'll see you out on the road. Thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising Media. I haven't said my thank yous in a long time. Thanks to all you guys that send me emails and show suggestions and everything. Paranormal Karen, we'll see you next time.